Blog Talk Radio.
This is Heart to Heart Talk Radio, part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. I am your host, Daniel Scranton. For the next hour or so, please listen with your heart.
Oh, merge calls. We didn't do that yet.
So now you're on.
Oh, hello, everyone. We're having a little technical situation here, but it seems like we've worked it out. This is Daniel Scranton. This is Heart to Heart Talk Radio, part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. It is December 1st, 2014. And my lovely little disclaimer is that the opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the opinions necessarily of the Enlightenment Evolution Network. And Allison is with us. Allison, I'm going to give you a very brief introduction. Allison Hamilton is my guest tonight. She's a channeler, and she's a lovely person, and I'm happy to have her on my show for the third time. You might be the first person I've had on 3 times. So welcome, Allison.
Thank you, Daniel. Thank you very much, and I feel greatly pleased to be the third-timer on your show.
Now, how are you doing? You mentioned that you're not feeling 100% tonight.
Well, yeah, I'm just feeling a little out of sequence is the word that I want to use, and I've been all over the place the last, like a lot of people. I was going to say the last few days, but I really, to be honest, it's the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Right, and my energy is through the roof or not at all, or I feel just kind of icky, or I feel so good that I really don't know how to stay on the ground, and I'm just kind of, in one of those phases where I don't feel quite lined up inside myself, if that makes any sense.
Well, I hope that being on the air tonight will somehow kick in some sort of adrenaline or something, and you'll feel better.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because I already am, and
good.
I think that I'm not sure what your theme for tonight. Well, it's probably not even night where you are, but it's nighttime here.
Oh,
I don't know.
Dark.
Is it dark already?
Well, it's raining like crazy too, which doesn't help. Yeah.
What time is it there?
It's 5:30. This is about the time when the sun would set, if there was any sun right now, but it's completely gray and rainy, and we did have a lot of sun today, though, which was nice. But it's like that in Hawaii, the weather changes every 5 minutes.
Right. Right. Well, hey, before I launch into a monologue, did you have an idea or a theme or a direction that you'd like to go in tonight?
How about? Yeah, I see it. The physical, the physical ramifications of the shift going on, because you seem to be like the poster child for that. Because every time I have you on the air, you're nursing something, and now you seem to be nursing yourself.
You're kind of breaking in and out, but I get the gist of what you're saying, and it just came to me. Well, I'm not the poster child for anything but hypochondria.
No, I would say that your symptoms have been legitimate.
I do seem to manifest my energetic shifts in my body pretty substantially. That's where I get them. Well, actually, I think it's because that's where I have to pay attention to them. I'm able to, and maybe this has happened for a very long time, ignore the stuff that comes through subtly, these little mental or emotional urges that our inner beings, our greater selves, are trying to direct us in certain areas or open certain doors for us. And some of us are a little hard of hearing. And so I think that if they try and they can't get your damn attention, they're going to whack you, and they're going to make you so you're in a position where you're going to hear and pay attention because you really can't do anything else.
Well, yeah, and I think that there's also something to be said, and I hear this a lot when people ask about being slowed down physically by whatever's happening. I hear the creators and everybody else say a lot of times, it's just time for you to slow down. And there's something really great about slowing down and having a cup of tea and wrapping yourself up in a warm blanket and watching Empire Strikes Back or something, which is what I always do. Whenever, like, I got bitten by a black widow spider, and I just felt like crap for 3 days, and that was the first thing I did, was to sit on my couch and watch Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi and everything else I wanted to watch. And there's something really to be said for that, and we sometimes think that there's something going wrong, but everything is so divinely and beautifully orchestrated in our lives, including the times when we're having those types of physical symptoms and slowdowns and all of that. And I really believe that when we are, there's a very good reason, and it's just worth heeding all of it and just slowing down and not seeing it as being something bad or something wrong happening, but it's just something that needs to happen in the moment.
Yes, yeah, and I think the key word you used was trust. And, if there's one thing that I've been learning the last several years is everything you just said is exactly right. None of these moments are haphazard. None of this stuff just drops out of the blue. It is very perfectly timed in order to bring forth whatever is needed to bring forth at that moment, and to relax into it. And yes, if that means wrapping in a blanket and watching TV and letting your body rest and heal, and maybe you don't even know that it needs healing, but something is going on where you just need to slow down and maybe it's a quit pushing type of a thing. I tend to be a pusher. I always want to know what's behind the next door, and I want to get there, and I want to get there yesterday, and I want to know it all. I want to go through the door after that.
Yep.
Yeah. And
it's like we don't give ourselves any time to savor or even really have the experience that we're having, because we're so in that go, go, go mode sometimes that, we need. For me, it's been a feeling of being tired that I've experienced almost daily for, I would say, probably about 20 to 21 years. I feel like it especially kicks in around my right eye, and it definitely has slowed me down over the years, and it's gotten me to meditate, quite frankly. I taught myself meditation before I even knew that that's what it was called, because of it. And this was before I had even awakened. I had started meditating, because I've been meditating for longer than I've been awake. And it's because of that feeling of tiredness. And I just realized that there's always a good reason for why we get slowed down.
Yeah. So the tiredness has served you quite well.
Yeah, I would say so, yeah.
And I think we talked about this the last time I was on your show, that when you can look back in hindsight at the experiences that you've had, you find that everything has served you quite well.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can reach that level of trust in your day, in every event that you encounter in your day, and you can just solidly know that it serves you quite well, then you change your perspective about things, and you're not resisting, and you're not fighting, and you're not developing angry feelings or resentments or frustrations. You're instead, what you've done instead then is you've opened a door for exploring how this is going to serve you. It's all about perspective, and if we can reach that perspective at the beginning instead of at the end of a life, your life changes, your days change, your hours change, every event changes, because you start to look at it as your next gift, your next unwrapping. That greatly changes things.
Yes, and I want to point something out right now, which is very interesting. So if any of you were tuned in right at 5:30, you may have heard some dead air. And that was because Rana and I were stuck in something called the Callao Crawl. We live in a town called Callao, and there's a super amount of traffic between Callao and Hilo, which is a major city on the east side of the island. We're in Hawaii, by the way. And so I called Allison and called in to start the show from my cell phone while driving. And we didn't hit merge calls until, like a minute or two into the program. And so the reason I'm telling that story right now is because one of the things that I was feeling anxious and annoyed about was that I wanted to get home at 5 o'clock so that I could promote the show on all the different spiritual Facebook groups and my own Facebook page and everything, and make sure there'd be some people listening and calling in. But now that I'm home, I noticed that our internet is down. So even if and it may have something to do with the weather, I don't know, but at any rate, it doesn't seem like it would have mattered if I was home at 5 o'clock to start to start promoting the show or not, because I don't know that we would have been able to get the internet back even if we had been here half an hour before the show, which is when I usually like to be home by. But so this is one of those things where if I had known that, and I had known that we could start the show via a three-way call with the network, which is what we did, then I wouldn't have been so bent out of shape about the fact that we were sitting in traffic, and we could have left half an hour earlier, and all this stuff. So
very interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, it is. Opportunities to remember that next time, and then as you know that it's purposeful, you can sit there and find out what's trying to drop into your mind or your heart at that point in time, to see what the messages are. Seems to me that when we, Mike and I just took a long trip over the Thanksgiving holiday, down to visit some family at the opposite end of the state and back, and so there was a lot of car time and a lot of bad weather and rain, and as I'm sitting there, I get a lot of information dropping into my head, and it varies depending on the cars that we go by. Stuff will drop in, the roadside culture stuff will drop in, and just to give you a little bit of background, or your listenership a bit of background, it was just about a year ago that you taught me how to channel. And,
oh, wow.
So it's been a year. And the process has changed greatly from in the beginning when I had to sit in the room and really kind of get into an altered state and do a lot of toning, and then very specific energies would move through. And that lasted for several months. And now it's almost like I can pause in the middle of a conversation and just almost literally open my head, and somebody will come in to add a comment. They're continuously present. They're continuously commenting, and gently guiding my process and my thoughts as I continue to seek answers and try to grow in spiritual understanding. I also would like to add that what I am experiencing and talking about and saying is germane to me. One of the things that I learned over this Thanksgiving Day holiday was, and this is like a big duh, but I can only speak for myself. And the background of that little piece is I was raised in a family where family get-togethers were all about one-upsmanship and competition and who can win the argument and who backs away and things like that. And, we all grew up and formed our own families and went off, and we still carry vestiges of that competition, though, when we get together. And we all have different ideas about what life's about. Some of the ideas vary quite widely. Some are not so dissonant. But anyway, we had a bunch of people of lots of different ages sitting around the table. And, you're never supposed to discuss religion and politics with family, so of course that's right where we start. Jump right in. And it was, I think this is the first time ever, everybody got to say something. Everybody said their mind. There was some elevation of volume and temperature. You could tell, faces got a little red. But no one interrupted and cut anybody off. No one said, that's just a bunch of BS. And in fact, as long as we kept it on an individual, personal level of conversation, we all talked and we all listened and we all found ourselves nodding and saying stuff like, I see where you're coming from. This is how I see it, but I understand where you're coming from. And that's kind of how it went. But once, and this is the interesting part to me, once we elevated the conversation out of the personal into the government, the country, and the state of the world, our ability to communicate around the table in peace and allowance disintegrated. It went from kumbaya to, oh, you're full of it, and I can't believe you think that way. And so we kind of backed away from that. Well, people got up and left the table. But later, as I was sitting with my brother-in-law in front of the football game, I said, this is really interesting to me, and I have to figure this out. When we were all talking personally, one-on-one, heart-to-heart about our beliefs, we got along, even though we all have such different beliefs. But once we upped it to speaking for everybody, well, I speak for this party, and I speak for that party, and I speak for this country, and I speak for that country. And then we threw in history, and we threw in where the country's going, and, it fell apart. And so I was telling him, why does it fall apart when we up it, when we get out of the personal? And then I said, well, I can only speak for myself. And then I just got a great big hit alongside of the head from my spiritual advisors, which was, you just answered your own question. Okay, here's a big Allison. You can only speak for yourself. My point of perception is entirely valid for me. The universe experiences itself through this point of perception known as Allison Hamilton. Everybody else around the table has the equal universal power behind them and experience and right to their own ideas and expression in their lives in any time and place. And so where we fall apart, I think, is when I say what is valid for me needs to be valid for you. And if you can't understand that, then you're a dumb shit. That's where it falls apart. So I learned a lesson. Even as I am a channel, and even as I have teachers coming through me with I think, golden jewels of knowledge and information and guidance, it serves me very well to remember that even as a mouthpiece or not as a mouthpiece, what's true for me is not necessarily true for anybody else.
Yeah. Wow. It's so profound. And I do want to talk about the way that you channel, because it's so much of a new way of channeling, I think, in terms of, let's say, our evolution as humans has gone. And, I do believe that for decades, the predominant form of channeling was that the personality, ego, whatever you want to call it, whatever you would call who you generally think of yourself as, had to get out of the way. And getting out of the way would allow something more, something else, some other aspect of our oversoul, or however you want to look at it, to be the dominant force, let's say, in the person's body. So now we're seeing more of the type of channeling that you do, and the type of channeling that I do is somewhere in between, where I do have that feeling that I'm still conscious, but I'm definitely not switching back and forth from Daniel to the beings I channel as easily. You do, Nora Harold does. Another student of mine that I had on the show, Ina Lucas, is that type of channel, that type of very conscious channel, where earlier in the conversation when you started saying, you started talking about the concepts that we're talking about tonight, I thought to myself, well, now I'm starting to sense a little bit of channeling coming through Allison. Do you know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Because I sense it too. I can feel when I start to change. And it's an additive thing. And you actually posted a channeling. So all you listeners out there, go to danielscranton.com and look up the one recently about synergy. Right? I mean, this was your synergy post. How it's related to that, and we are more
right together.
I'm trying to get the words here. We are so much more than we think we are, and even as we sit here in our individual selves with our little letter I, denoting I, Allison, the physical being sitting here in this chair, even as that idea of me, I am so much more than that. And what's occurring is I am becoming conscious of all these other, shall we say, rays of light or information that come in, and they come in constantly to everyone. And this is a point that we'd like to make about waking up. It's really just, if you picture yourself with your hand on a faucet nozzle, and you are the faucet, and it's your hand on your own nozzle, you're opening your faucet, and you're letting in more of you. And what they want to encourage is just the conscious awareness of feeling differently, perhaps feeling additive energies coming into you and having, different ideas than you normally might have, different thoughts, and realize what you're doing is you're opening your faucet to more of you that has always been there. Yeah.
Yeah, so this is funny because we're going off on these tangents and they're so awesome. And we had totally planned to have like a little bit of a conversation and then, have you do your question and answer thing with callers. But if you're listening right now, I have no way of taking your call because I have no internet. And I need internet to have the studio open. I might be able to get to the studio on Lana's phone, but it would take that would be so complicated to even try and find the correct URL on there because she still has data on her phone. I don't get data on my phone if I'm on the phone. So anyway, so we're just going to have this conversation, and it's going to I can already tell it's going to be awesome. It's perfect the way this is. The internet. Oh, I had it unplugged. Okay. I unplugged the internet before we went out today.
Oh my God, Daniel.
That's why I haven't had internet. Oh my God. So we do that sometimes in this house when we want to not have as many EMFs floating around and use up all the electricity. As if we're not going to be here, we'll unplug the modem and the router. So that's why I didn't have internet. So now I can take phone calls when we get to that point. But I did want to say something else about this conversation. So I know there was a synergy post, and then there was the post about you and your helpers being like a team. This was something I channeled, I think, 2 nights ago. And the concept that your guides and your angels and all these other beings, like the beings I channel, the beings you channel, we're part of a team. It's not really like we are the smaller version of who we are, and that they are greater than or bigger or better in any way. They learn from us, we learn from them, we work together to create this experience. And I love that. And in just absolute stark contrast to that, I just want to say that Lana and I were driving the other night to I think it was last night? Yeah, it was last night. To a pizza party at a organic farm, and we had no idea that they were also doing a kirtan type thing before the party. But we get there, and it's like there's a live kind of kirtan band with. Do you know what kirtan is, Allison?
No, I don't.
Okay, because I didn't until recently either. It's a sing-along, like a New Age sing-along, where it's all chanting. So it's all chanting music. So the artist up, front with the guitar and the microphone will say Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, and all this stuff. And then the people who are in the audience will repeat that. And so we get to this event, and there's all these people at this kirtan, and they're jumping up and down, and they're singing and dancing, and it's amazing. It's so great. And then after, so we do this for like an hour, and the energy is amazing. And at the end, the guy who's leading it starts talking, and a lot of what he's saying is really wonderful, and it's everything that we all know and have come to believe and all this stuff. But then he says, we are not God. We're individuals. And he says, we will never be God. And I'm thinking, whoa,
Right.
And, let me back up just a bit, because the really ironic part of this story is that as we're driving down, Lana has Spotify on her phone, and she likes listening to Christian rock sometimes on her Spotify. And, and I have all this resistance to anything Christian because of my upbringing and how I felt like really, less than God and, like really bad and not, all this stuff. And so
all that, yeah,
all that jazz, so I felt afraid of God, to be quite literal with it. And so I'm telling her, the thing that I try to be open and non-resistant as much as I can, but I said, but there's this thing that all these people are promoting this idea that we're less than God and God is up there somewhere, and and she said, well, the way that I listen to the music is I hear them saying, it's me singing to me, is what she says, and I know that that's what they're singing about, but I just changed my perception of it to be me singing to me. I'm the God that they're singing to. And so so it was really ironic when we get to this, super spiritual New Age event where someone's saying the same thing, the exact same thing that I was saying was infused in this Christian music, and that's why I didn't want to listen to it. So fast forward to our conversation here tonight, and it's all about becoming one with the guides and the beings that we're channeling, and taking on the knowing that we are actually source energy, just being broadcast through, this individual, seemingly individuated consciousness. So that's my deal. Yeah.
Well, that's a great story. Yes, it is. It's time to put on our big girl pants and her big boy pants, and because I mean you're channeling about that we provide information to them as much as they provide to us, and they're different perspectives, and all along through this whole year I keep getting this. There really are no edges. Erase the edges, because there aren't separate. Now I'm getting a little bit. There's a whole bunch of stuff trying to come.
Yeah,
right
go ahead. Take your time.
Our individual points of perception are very purposeful. I mean, the Allison Hamilton that's sitting here in this chair in Oregon is a very important piece of. Is a very important idea, and the experiences that she's having are feeding the whole, just like the experiences that the non-physical beings that are surrounding her right now are feeding her. You are absolutely right. There are no edges. It's an amorphous state. It's an ebb and a flow, and but at the same time, the point of perception that is individualized and having specific experiences is exalted. The differences are exalted. We talked about, I'm looking over at my husband, we had a long conversation about this on the drive home from Southern Oregon about our differences are exalted. Sameness is sameness, we individuate to have specific different experiences, which then feed the whole. It's the creation of the new experience which causes the expansion of the universe, the ever-expanding universe. And so the point is while at the same time we're recognizing the wholeness of each and every one of us and the oneness of all, we also want to continue to keep the idea of the individual, the importance of the individual in this whole play. Yes.
Yeah.
Amen. Amen. Why would we be having an individuated experience if it wasn't completely valuable to do so? What would be the point if all we were here to do was to merge with the all, And that was part of the point of what this guy was saying at the kirtan, was that he was saying, there's never going to be this time where you lose your individual sense of who you are. And that I can get on board with, but the whole idea that we're somehow less than God and that we're here, to devote everything. I mean, it's just so far from, off the spectrum, on that spectrum of oneness and, the divinity that's not just in us. It is every bit of us. There's just an I just think, the heart center is just the access point. It's not just that's all that's divine about us, that one little spark in there.
Right. I agree. And I mean, we in my mind, the way I see it is we cannot be less than the all that is, because the all that is everything, and so everything is all that is. And there's not a gradation in my mind. Now I'm getting that there are different levels of awareness and consciousness, but that has nothing to do with greater than or less than or lesser. There is not that idea outside of our human playground where we're playing with those ideas and we're finding out which ones we want to keep and which ones we're discarding. And we're discarding ideas right and left, these things that we've drug around with us for a very long time. We're starting to very clearly, with great clarity, examine ideas that no longer serve us, and we're finding the strength and the willingness to leave those behind and move forward into what may feel like unknown territory. I posted something about this online the other day on the Consciousness Evolution 2.0 Facebook page, and I always have to give them a plug. It's a private Facebook page, closed group, not private, but if any of you guys are not members of Consciousness Evolution 2.0, please put it in your Facebook lexicon and ask to join. Everybody gets invited.
Yeah.
So, right. So the idea was about foundationlessness, and it started when at the Thanksgiving get-together, and my sister picked up an ancient double-barreled shotgun that belonged to my great-grandma. Yeah. Now you know that the conversation gets heated when people pick up a double-barreled shotgun,
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Allison, it's time for you to shut up. No, it wasn't like that at all. She was just telling the story behind it. But I was thinking in my mind, now, because my teachers have been talking about history we carry with us in each moment. So there is only the now moment. So that my entire family history, all the pictures of black and white pictures on the walls and this ancient shotgun and all these things, how are they possible in the middle of this living room if I don't have a history, if there isn't a history? And they said, but you do have a history, but you create it in every moment. That shotgun is created right now. That black and white photo of your grandparents is created right now. Everything is right now. It doesn't exist somewhere else. And this is a hard thing for me to get my mind around. Yeah, because my rational mind wants to explain all this and say, but that doesn't really work. But my spiritual, metaphysical mind is telling me, yes, it does work, and this is a concept and an idea that you need to explore more, Allison, and then it will make sense to you. And when you start to examine the nowness of the moment and the onlyness of the now moment, you start to find yourselves in a perceptive place, shall we say, where you almost are foundationless, okay? So in my mind, I'm seeing myself floating in air with nothing around me, because everything around me I've created. I've created the history. I've created my great-grandmother's shotgun and all, the whole 9 yards. And if that's all created in the now, and there really is nothing outside of the now, then how much freedom do I have to create what is surrounding me in that now moment as I'm floating in space? And I don't even know if I'm making sense here, Daniel, because think that I don't understand these things yet. That it feels like I'm done with first grade, and they're trying to force me to go. Force is the wrong word. I got corrected. They're trying to help me open the door into second grade and these higher level concepts of awareness. And these higher level concepts of awareness have to do with recognizing the validity of your consciousness with or without a body, and with or without the window dressing. Right. And this is not in any way, shape, or form meant to negate the experience of a life, the wonderful, incredible creative endeavor that each and every individual is engaged in, with the wallpaper that they surround themselves with to have the experiences that they have. That is beyond the words that we can find right now to tell you how important you are. However, inside of having those experiences, inside of your identity and inside of your life, you now have the opportunity to reach for further and deeper understandings of who and what you are and what consciousness is, and what you might be able to experience yourselves even as you sit inside your bodies, surrounded by the wallpaper of your creation.
Wow. It reminds me, this whole topic reminds me of a channeling of Bashar's that has been beautifully set to music on YouTube, and Lana also played this the other night in the car. And it's about how we're constantly shifting from one reality to another, and we do so billions of times a second. And the only reason why the reality that we're in from one moment to the next looks pretty similar is because we don't offer a very different vibration from one moment to the next. And he says, in order to create change, you just have to create a bigger difference. And then when you can create a bigger difference in the vibration from one moment to the next, then you can experience things like having a radically different reality that you're finding yourself surrounded by, without needing to go through the series of steps that we have traditionally thought that we needed to go through in order to experience change. And when you talk about these other people, relatives of yours from different eras, I would say the same thing is true when it comes to something like time travel. It's something that once we master that, being able to shift vibrational frequency, not only will we be able to teleport, we'll be able to time travel too, because we're just that reality that's supposedly in the 1800s is no different in a lot of ways from that reality that's in this time period, but in a different location in this time period. It's the same type, it's the same movement essentially, but there's an expectation now that we have that we can just get in a plane or a car or walk to some other location in this time frame.
Yes.
Yes. And speaking of Consciousness Evolution 2.0, I wonder if this caller from 248 area code is the one and only Philip Malika. Hello, you're on the air, 248.
Hello?
It's not
Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Who's this? Yeah.
Gianni?
Yeah, we hear you. What do you got to say?
Oh, just want to speak to Allison.
Yes, I'm here. Who am I speaking with?
Gianni.
Gianni. Hello.
Yes. How you doing,
How
Allison?
are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. Are you continuing with your studies?
Somewhat. Not really. I tried.
Did you have something that you wanted to share with us, or a question, or?
Yeah, I had a question about my tunneling. Like it still hard for me to do so. Now I want to ask like Allison, if any pointer, any suggestions, can you help me out with?
You know what? I'm having a very hard time making out your words, Johnny, but I think here's what I thought you said, that you're having a hard time still channeling. And and what I'd like to offer up is that and Daniel, feel free also to jump in here, because it like we said earlier tonight, every single one of us is individual. And even as we are connected, and even as you follow the strands of energy, and none of us are separate. But as our specific, purposeful points of identity in this life, we each are going to experience things through our own perceptive mechanisms. So, like Daniel channels in one way, I have. I really didn't figure out how to channel this way. Daniel taught me how to channel, but then my own self kind of morphed into this open, continuous dialogue that comes through all the time. What I'd like to say is that you might want to engage your imagination more than you have been, and recognize that the truth of your reality, ironically, comes to you through your imagination. So instead of looking for, and I'm getting the word reality in quotes, reality type of words dropping into your head, or different sounding voices showing up, instead, try an exercise where you fully engage your imagination. Pretend that you are the channel. Pretend that what you're hearing and feeling and understanding is coming through you, through your channeled abilities, through your mind, through your structure, your emotional, mental, physical, energetic structure. Pretend. We talk at length of the importance of imagination, and it seems so few take us seriously. And then they're laughing because they're saying, because we're in your imagination. They think they're really funny. But imagination is so important. We create out of our imagination. And the picture I'm getting, Johnny, is for you to utilize your imagination to get to where you want to go. There are doors there that will open, that are wanting to be opened, and play a Peter Pan number on yourself, pretend. and you'll find yourself where you want to be, is what I'm feeling.
And I just want to add something to that, Johnny, and that is that Allison doesn't know this, and neither do maybe Allison's guides know this. But this is something that I started teaching in my channeling work after. Allison was one of my very first students, and in recent history of teaching channeling, this is one of the exercises I give, is to act as though you are the being that you want to channel. So let's say you wanted to channel Archangel Michael, and you decided that you were going to be an actor, and you were going to act as though you were Archangel Michael, and so you would sit the way that Archangel Michael would sit, and you would speak the way that Archangel Michael would speak, and you would say the things that Archangel Michael would say, and basically you would embody that being, and you would take on the frequency of that being known as Archangel Michael. And that is a pathway. That is that's a corridor into the channeled experience, the channeled state, because it's really no different than doing that. You're finding the vibrational signature of that which it is that you want to channel, and it doesn't matter how you do it.
I want to add to that, Daniel. Johnny, one of the things that really helped me was every morning, Dan Scranton posts a channeled message, and I get seated and I have my cup of coffee, and then I kind of calm myself, and then I read whoever it is he's channeling, the Hathers, the fairy, Archangel Michael, but just sit quietly with his words in front of you on your computer screen, take a deep breath, and then feel for that energy before you start reading the words. And then it helps me. I read the words out loud. And my husband listens, but he's got his eyes closed, and both of us get into the energy. You can feel it after a while. At first it was just, reading words. But now when I read, I get shivers down my back, my body changes, I feel the vibrational energy of the words, maybe as they're coming through Daniel Scranton, maybe directly from Archangel Michael, maybe it's a combination of the two, and then my energy is added onto it, so it becomes even more. At this point, we've got a whole lot of energies contributing to that vibration, and the message becomes even more clear. And who knows, it may even change, because each moment is new. So let's play with that idea for a little while. Maybe not right now, because we're talking to Johnny about channeling, but there is food for thought in that idea. Anyway, try that, Johnny. Try that. I think you'll find yourself being quite satisfied.
Okay, I'll work on it.
And thank you for calling, Johnny. I so appreciate you being patient there and waiting on hold.
Thank you.
And good luck. Yeah.
Yeah, keep us informed. Good luck, and stay warm back there.
Yeah.
Oh.
All right, Johnny. Take care. We do have another caller here. I know we said, we'll give this 5 minutes anyway. 585 area code. You're on.
Yes, hi everybody. This is Chad out of New York State.
Hi, Chet.
Hey, Chet.
How are you?
Good and good, I think.
Yeah.
Good. I'm getting kind of a delay with you guys, so if it sounds like we're breaking up or talking over each other, I'm quite sure it's because of the delay. All right. Well, I'm giving a call. I'm a spiritual person, and I wanted to ask you guys some questions, just get some thoughts from you, and then just kind of go back and forth on these thoughts. I'm not sure what you would entitle yourself, it sounds like you get into a lot of medium work, or maybe you're into chatting with angels and whatever it is that you do. I don't know the terminology, so I don't want to sound disrespectful. My question to you is, what do you say to people who would say all religions of the world are a manifestation of the one true God? Would you agree with that, or would you disagree?
Well, I have something to say about that. Well, I believe that all religions are a path to God, or a way of having a relationship with God, and that's why they all exist, because there's so many different ways of experiencing God and your relationship to God. We were talking about that earlier in the show. I don't know if you were tuned in at that point, but we were just having a conversation about that. I want to hear what Allison and her guides have to say too, though.
Well, just me talking is, I would have a hard time even engaging in that conversation, because I wouldn't understand the motivation. This is just me and my personality. I just, if I can't see a positive, enlightening, growing end game out there, yes, no questions don't make me really excited. But hearing that, what I'd like to say is, there are 7 billion plus humans on this planet, and every single one of them is going to find their way to their truth at some point or another. The religions have been formed to help direct and guide in some cases, and in other cases they've been formed to help control. We're not here to talk about that. There are as many religions as there are people thinking about them, and even more so. Because do you think? Yeah, we're overlapping each other. I apologize. Let me ask you guys this question. If there is a God out there, if there is one, all right, and I don't think that either one of you would have a problem with that, but if there was a God out there, do you think he governs our thoughts?
Wow. That's an interesting question. I love it.
Yeah, it's like the dog eating its own tail, isn't it? Chad, I don't believe it's a personification like a God out there. I have a sense of, at this point in my understanding, I'd like to preface it with that because my understanding is changing all the time. But at this point in my understanding, I see that we are created out of this incredibly loving conscious energy that I call the all that is.
What is that?
Let's say Einstein called it the ether, right? It's everything. It's the matrix. It's the air we breathe. It's the lungs that we breathe the air with.
Yeah. Where do you think life evolved? Do you think that we were evolved out of evolution, like chemical processes fading into one another, or do you think we were made with purpose?
Oh, very much with purpose. I have no.
But I think it's
okay. Stop right there.
True.
Okay, so we're made with purpose. Now, when something is made out of purpose, that means there's an order to it. Correct? So my question to you is, if we don't really know the answers that I'm asking you, how can you give spiritual advice?
I think the answer. And if you want to jump in, Daniel, go ahead.
Hold on, Daniel. Daniel, hold on. The reason why I said that is because we love spiritual things as people. There's no doubt about it. We love talking about spiritual things. We love talking about angels. But when we start talking about how our mind is governed, okay? The universal laws of logic that we use to come up with conclusions, for instance, or the universal objective morality that we use, that love is definitely good, hate is definitely bad. Some cultures eat their babies, some cultures love their babies. Which one is right and wrong is going to depend on your religious and faith belief. There are some cultures that believe in cannibalism. There are some cultures in the religious beliefs that believes it's okay to beat on women. How do we know if all religions are a manifestation of something spiritual that eventually get to one God? How do we know what is right and wrong through that? How do we know which is true and not
Allison
true?
Allison and I don't teach right and wrong, and we don't teach. That's not.
Do you think there's anything objective out there? Are there absolute truths out there?
Well, you exist. I like the Shars. I like the Shars laws that say that you exist. That's the first law.
Okay, but how do you know your brain?
Daniel,
how do you know your brain's not in a vat right now? Maybe we're in a matrix. Maybe we're not really here.
Well, that's fine.
Maybe
it doesn't matter ultimately because you're having an experience.
Sure, it matters. Oh, sure, it matters.
Well, I don't
because
think it matters.
That's ultimately how you see reality. Some people believe that it's okay to do whatever they want because there is no absolute truth.
You're talking about right and wrong and things like that, and
I'm talking about everything that makes up reality. You guys were just talking about what makes sense of reality, right? You were saying this and that, and you were trying to make sense of reality. But this conversation that I'm listening to right now not only not makes sense of reality, but it's completely illogical. And I don't mean this out of a harsh way. But you literally can't make sense of reality just listening to you guys. I don't understand it.
Well, Chet, I'm sorry.
You know what, Chet? It's not like you have to listen to this show. And I think that's really
But you're
point.
Telling other people about your beliefs, are you not? So obviously
and
other
they can
people
take or leave them. People can take or leave.
Sure, they got a choice. I didn't say they don't have a choice to believe. I'm just challenging you and your beliefs. I mean, if you guys are spiritual people...
You obviously want to pick a fight, and I really don't think either one of us are interested in having a fight. So, bye, Chet. Chet's gone now.
I think I'm still here.
Yeah, you are. What I'd like to say is we've been going through... and I don't have it written down, or I just grab my book and start reading from it, but I've been getting an awful lot of information on our ideas of right and wrong. And Daniel hit on it just a few sentences ago. Number one, we're not here teaching right and wrong. We're here sharing our understanding of who and what we are at this point in time. And the amusing thing is that everything is valid. Everything is valid. We as human beings get to choose what we decide is right and wrong, and if you'll notice, we change our minds about that all the time. The experiences that we have feed back to the whole. Sometimes they cause us to change our next experience. Sometimes we have to continue to have the same experience many times until we finally get the lesson or get bored with it and decide to do something different. But realize that every single experience is valid and feeds the whole.
Yeah, you want an absolute truth? How about all truths are true? There's an absolute truth, and all realities are true. All realities are valid. It doesn't really. None of these things really matter. That that people want. Like he said, we're having a conversation that's illogical. Hallelujah! I want to have conversations that are illogical. That's all I want to do, is have conversations that don't make any sense, and because that's my God-given right.
Well, it is. And it's our challenge, too, for us to recognize that when we say things are logical, what we're doing is we're staying inside a box that we've built for ourselves in order to try to understand the framework of our existence. But that box is not real. Those walls we put up to try to explain to ourselves who and what we are, and then we have experiences that we have inside that box. But at some point in time, we're tired of the experiences that we have inside that box, and it's time to start taking the walls down. And I think that's where we are at this point in time, Chet, is we're not logical anymore. The logic box is dull. I'm kind of fed up with it, and it's not giving me what I need to feed this intense curiosity in my soul. It's not feeding my soul my desire to learn more. So I'm taking down the logic walls, but listen also to me when I say that I'm not saying that you have to or that anybody else has to. This is where I am, and there's, like we said earlier, over 7 billion people, and every single one of us is valid, and all of our beliefs, our journeys, our explorations, our ideas, these are all valid, and they're all useful. Where we fall down, this is like the Thanksgiving Day dinner. Where we fall down is when this is true for me, and it's got to be true for you, you dumb shit. And so we're done with that, right? We're done with that battling energy. It's not going to be I'm going to win and you're going to lose. It's that we're all valid, we're all explorers, we're all finding our own paths and uncovering our own gems. We're all in this together, and we're all moving in generally the same direction, but each of our paths is unique, and it needs to be unique. There's nothing to be gained in sameness. So your footsteps are going to go in different places than mine and different places than Daniel's, and that's highly purposeful. And so you should congratulate yourself for having these thoughts that are pushing you to question things, because they'll lead you to answers. Your answers may be different than mine. They may be different than Daniel's. They may be different than everybody's, and that's great. That's great.
It sure is. And, I'm sorry. I still feel angry about the whole freaking phone call, but and that's part of my truth, is that I have a right to my feelings and to express them. And when someone calls up my show and tells me that I have no right to say what I'm saying, then I want to say, fuck you, don't listen.
Yeah.
That's what I want to fucking say to a person who calls up, interrupts people when they're in the middle of talking and blames it on overlapping things and then basically just wants to blindside us. You know what? You don't have to listen. So that is, and now he's gone. Now he hung up. Thank you. Goodbye, Chet. I hope you find what you're looking for somewhere else in the world.
Oh my goodness! It's amazing.
It's amazing to me how. Well, it's not amazing, actually. I totally understand why there are people out there whose purpose it is to trigger anger within me, because it's something that I haven't really dealt with very much in this lifetime. It's not something that I've expressed or been willing to acknowledge even in myself a lot of times. And so when someone gives me that experience or prompts that experience, I feel liberated. So I actually feel liberated right now as I express my anger about that phone call. And so I want to thank you too, Chet. I want to say fuck you, and I want to say thank you, Chet.
Isn't that great? Isn't that wonderful how that all worked out? Yay!
Yes. And, there's hundreds of people, thousands of people out there who don't like what I do on YouTube, and they're very happy to threaten me and very happy to call me all sorts of names because I put videos out of myself channeling. But it's whenever you expose yourself in a way and say, I'm putting this out there, that's what you open yourself up to, and it's part of the ride. And Allison,
it is.
welcome to the ride, Allison, as you start your channeling out there more and more.
Oh, I know, and you get called a fraud and worse and stuff like that, and I've come to have a couple of great, I've learned this latest saying is, I can only speak for myself, and then one I've been using, I copied from you a long time ago, is take what resonates and leave the rest. And of course, you have to be dealing with people who even understand the concept of resonating and paying attention to the feelings. And more and more people are starting to understand that, and they're getting the gut reaction of stuff that, that feels good to me. Maybe that's triggering something in me. I'm starting to feel like what you're saying is reminding me of a truth that I know somewhere deep inside of me. I get that a lot. But then I also get the complete blind stare like, are you a frickin' nutcase? And so we're going to encounter all kinds. And I applaud you for expressing your emotions so freely, because that's something I'm working on myself. And I think that's magnificent. So good job.
Thank you. Well, thank you. I, for I don't even know how many decades would just ignore all of it and not want to stir the pot anymore. And part of that's out of fear too. If I anger someone else with my expression of my anger, then what are they going to do? When someone picks a fight with me, there's a lot of times when I want to be the spiritual one and take the high road and not hang up on people and swear at them. But I mean, come on.
It's actually really pretty funny.
Well, anyone who thinks that I'm perfect and above that sort of thing, that's only because you see one side. There are many sides, and I love them all. So.
Right on.
Yeah. And I love you, Allison, and I want to thank you for coming on the show. And even though you were under the weather a little, and I think it was a great show in spite of everything.
Well, I thought
maybe because of everything, it was a great show.
It was a lot of fun as usual, and I love you too, Daniel. And I want to again express my great appreciation for the work that you do for all of us and your daily postings. Guide us so well, and you're doing so much for us all. So thank you very much. And
you're welcome.
I appreciate it. Love you very much.
Thank you again. Happy anniversary, yeah.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah. 2 years with Mama. It's been great. And how long have you and Michael been together?
We've been married for 15 years.
Wow. So that's a big number.
It is. It's the longest I've been with anybody besides a dog. So I'm really proud of myself.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, I look forward to having you on the show again, or in some way connecting with you again in the future, because it's always fun. And next time, we'll be a little bit more prepared here on this end.
It all worked out, didn't it, though? It all worked out.
Yeah, because I think that was in spite of what certain people think, I thought that was a pretty great conversation that the two of us were having before we started taking questions. Yeah. So
I think we moved forward tonight.
Yes, another step forward for humanity.
Right on.
All right, Allison. Well, you can hang up because I'm doing it. I can't hang up on you, but you can hang up on me.
Okay.
And I'll do my announcements for the network. So.
All right, hon. Well, you take care.
Yeah.
We'll talk to you later. Okay.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Bye for now.
Bye.
Okay, so as part of the Enlightenment Evolution Network, I would just like to say that we have a full lineup of shows here for all of you to enjoy. Starting with tomorrow, we have Soulfulpreneur Radio. That's with Rachel Archelaus and Megan Crandall-Meyer, and that show starts at 12 noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern. And those two lovely ladies have guests on who are all about making your calling into a career. And they also do psychic readings on the show. They're both wonderful psychics. And I don't know who their guest is tomorrow, but I'm sure it's going to be a great show. And they have a website, Soulfulpreneur Radio. If you can't spell that, you're not alone. It's Soul and then Full and then however you spell preneur, like entrepreneur radio.com. And that's Tuesday. And then Wednesday we have the Enlightenment Evolution Hour with Rob Gauthier, the man who started it all, the channeler of Treb, the friendly reptilian. And Rob's show is on at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And when he's not channeling Treb, he has wonderful topics and wonderful guests. He just had Lee Harris on his show, which is kind of a big deal. If you don't know who Lee Harris is, he's a pretty amazing channel. So that's Rob's show on Wednesdays. And on Thursdays, we have Philip Malika with the Consciousness Evolution Hour. Philip has channelers and other wonderful beings, including his sister sometimes on his show, and just talks about wonderful spiritual concepts. And Philip has his Facebook group, Consciousness Evolution 2.0, that he started, and his YouTube channel, where he reads from Seth's books and things like that, and has a meetup group or a couple meetup groups in Michigan. So anyway, check out Philip's show on Thursdays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. Then on Fridays at 6 and 9, we have Kalina Angel with the Earth Experience. And she has channelers on her show and topics and puts together clips and music and all sorts of wonderful things. Her show is a delight because Kalina is such a delight. And so I'm very happy to promote Kalina's show on Friday. And now on Saturdays, Victoria Vives has moved from Tuesdays to Saturdays with her show, Earth, Sky, People Radio. And Victoria has wonderful guests every week and always does such a very professional show. And her shows are on at 1 p.m. Eastern, so 10 a.m. Pacific is when her show runs. And then on Sundays, Karen Newman's show, About One, that starts at 11 a.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. And her shows feature channelers, and her twin flame, Crystal, comes on the show every once in a while. And she's a wonderful channel herself and singer and spiritual teacher. And Karen's great, and her show is great, so you should check that out as well. And, I forgot about Saturday nights. I'm so sorry to momentarily forget the Disclosure Now show on Saturday nights with the Pied Piper and Texas Rebel. And that show is also at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And that show is obviously all about disclosure and government conspiracies and all that fun stuff. So check out the Disclosure Now program on Saturday nights, and we have more shows coming
in the near future, like the resonance, resonance intention with Neil Gar and Universal Soul. And that show will also be on Sundays, but I'm not sure exactly when that show is scheduled to start. And stay tuned for more from the Enlightenment Evolution Network. We have lots of new shows coming. And if you want to learn more about what I do, you can visit my website, danielscranton.com. I have live Q&As where I channel and teach meditation and teach channeling and doing all sorts of stuff that I've recently added to the website. So definitely check out my website and my show next week, where I will have a guest named Misty. Oh God, Misty, I'm blanking on your last name. So sorry. Misty Silva Genelon. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but she's going to be my guest next week. She's a wonderful coach and teacher. So check us out next week at the same time, which is 5:30 my time, Hawaii, 7:30 Eastern, or 7:30 Pacific, 10:30 Eastern. And that's all for tonight. Thank you for listening and hanging in there with all of our challenges tonight. So good night, everyone. I love you.